Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Singapore Week of Innovation and Technology, Switch Converge stage. I'm Ada, and I'm your MC for this segment. Welcome everyone, and I hope that you have been enjoying your first day of Switch so far. We're now shifting gears into the trade and connectivity track, a space where we spotlight innovators that are shaping the future of global trade and supply chains. If you've just joined us, welcome to the Converge stage, the thought leadership platform where we deep dive into sectoral trends and transformation stories. Before we begin, for our guests standing at the back or seated at the back, there's still a lot of seats available in the front. Don't be shy and do come closer to join us. Now, if everyone is comfortably seated, let's begin our first session. We are honored to have Mr. Daniel Tan, Managing Director of Commonwealth Kokubu Logistics, to share his keynote on supply chain and logistics innovation, a global and local perspective. Commonwealth Kokubu Logistics is a major local cold chain logistics company. Mr. Tan will be sharing how it leverages technology and innovation to stay ahead in a fast-evolving logistics landscape, balancing both global best practices and local opportunities. Please join me to warmly welcome Mr. Daniel Tan to share on his keynote presentation. Mr. Tan, please.
Thank you. I can see that we are all surrounded. I was told almost 20,000 innovators and more than 400 exhibitors. And as you can see from my attire, I don't have a t-shirt, I'm not wearing jeans, and I don't have a white sneakers, so I'm not a tech guy. But I'm a user of technology. And the reason why I'm here really is to share with you the kind of challenges I face as a technology adopter in this maze of technology that we face today. I'm sure if you walk out of this very big hall, AI, automation, analytics, robotics are something that you will see at every corner that you turn. But what does it that delivers the value to us? I don't think any one of us here needs to be converted. And to me, when it comes to digitalization and automation from a user perspective, it is less of an adoption but more of a navigation. What do we navigate through to find the true value that is the best value for our business? And you realize that in your journey, you will have to face many choices, some of which are very paradoxical. And I will share today 3 key paradoxes that I face as a user, and hopefully some of you out there can help provide some of the solution. And for those of you who are implementing, we can seek solace in each other that you are not alone. Partners or replacement, expertise or technologies. Even when we use ChatGPT, there is a disclaimer to tell you that ChatGPT will make mistakes. So please validate and check. So who are those people out there that I, as user, have to validate and check if any of those automation or digitalization solutions are indeed correct and giving me the right calibration? I will need my subject matter experts. I will need my reefer expert to ensure that the AI calibration for my reefer system to reduce my energy usage are indeed optimal based on the legacy system. But bear in mind, that person who is helping to calibrate that particular technology will one day perhaps be replaced by the technology itself. We all like to say that, well, we can always move our people to do a higher value job. That's what we say all the time. But in reality, if we touch our heart and ask, can all of our existing subject matter experts do a higher value job? If tomorrow you replace a person who washes the window outside your high-rise, whose expertise is abseiling down a 50-story high building and clean your glasses, and replace that job with a drone. It means that he will have to redesign his job into a drone pilot. I'm not saying it cannot be done, but I'm saying that as a business owner, those are the things that we really need to consider. How many of us can really redesign our job? So in CKL, we sort in between. I get a lot of questions when I was sitting there waiting for my turn to speak. And the question is, you run a warehouse, how is your automation? I say that I am very automated insofar as storage is concerned. ASRS is a very mature technology. But when it comes to fulfillment, I have a problem. I'm a third-party logistics. Every pallet is different. Every cartons are different. And for me, every aisles are frozen. An autonomous vehicle, as of it today, based on my experience, cannot cope with those messy environment effectively. So we go in between. We have a tele-drive operation where our operators operate remotely on a rig, not any different from those that you see in your arcade, and he can control one-to-many MHE remotely at the comfort of 22 degrees instead of minus 22 degrees. In that way, we don't concentrate the disruption of his job. We distribute that so that he can continue to contribute. And by the way, while he is contributing, we can harvest his tacit knowledge of judgment, motion, and so on and so forth. And hopefully, those data can one day help to improve the autonomous robot that what we can have to develop thereafter. Now, it means that one day, that day will still come. But hopefully by then, our people has crossed the bridge with us already. How many of us have discovered a very nice restaurant, so-called hidden gem, very nice food, outstanding atmosphere, but there's no crowd? So what do? Do you share it with everybody such that the business is viable? Or do you keep it to yourself such that you continue to get a seat? To me, managing vendor partner is exactly that. How do you manage it such that they continue to be viable, but protecting your differentiating technologies that you otherwise will have a competitive advantage over with? And there is no right or wrong answer. For us in CKL, what we decide to do is we go on a combination of levers. We buy technologies if they are proven and mature, but we co-develop with the vendor if there is a high potential. And if there is nothing out there, we just develop it ourselves, we build it ourselves. Now it sounds pretty simple. You either buy, you borrow, you work together, or you build it yourself. But the key here really is timing. When do you do that? You do it too slow, your vendor becomes not viable and you lost a key technology advantage. You do it too fast, you may then bleed, because now, as a technology user, you suddenly found yourself holding the can of making sure that the technology partners is viable. But there's a second paradox: to protect or to promote. The third paradox is what I call the elephant in the data room. Now, I don't have a solution. I'm sure the subsequent panel and many out there will have a solution. The two most important or most common words that we hear nowadays is AI, and then there's sustainability. And then there's AI-assisted sustainability. AI, we all know, is not exactly CO2 friendly. With the data room, with the training, and so on and so forth. So elephant in the data room that farts CO2. What then do you do? We don't really have a lot of solution. We are still looking to be enlightened. But what we are trying to do is to do whatever that we can within our means to keep a ledger. We know scope 3 is something that we will have to measure. And when you use AI, you probably need to consider that as a carbon spent, besides the carbon save that you are trying to achieve. We are doing in our own little way to make sure that we don't rely so much. We build our own LLM nodes instead of relying on large clouds. We repurpose our own computers and set up our own servers such that some of these AI learnings that we are doing doesn't burn too much of carbon. What I want to leave with us here is this. It's a maze out there. And the last thing that we want to do is really to freeze in face of indecision. I would strongly recommend that while we think big, we really need to start small. Identify key technologies that can help us multiply, and then continue to develop it, move fast, such that we continue to build success story, and we will then be able to fly together. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Tan, for the presentation. And next, we turn to our first panel of this afternoon titled, How Long More to Full Autonomy in the Logistics Space? Investigating the Journey to Dark Warehouses. The logistics sector is undergoing rapid transformation through autonomous technologies driven by three key factors: manpower shortages, the need to minimize operational downtime, and the push for sustainability. This session explores how far the industry is from achieving full automation, the challenges of implementation, and what dark warehouses could mean for Singapore's logistics future. The QR code displayed on screen allows you to send in questions throughout the session. The panelists will address the selected questions during the final 10 minutes of this discussion. Now, we're pleased to invite a distinguished panel of experts who will share case studies and practical applications on the perspectives on the road ahead. It is my pleasure to invite our moderator, Mr. Jens Bonn-Wagner, CEO of X Squared Technologies, to lead us in this conversation. Mr. Jens, over to you.
Yeah, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure to be here, and I welcome you to this session. Because it's a complex topic and we don't waste much time, so let me introduce and welcome our speakers. First, we have Mr. Koen Kadden from Kato & Nazi. Please. Then we have Mr. Nigel Lee, the General Manager of Lenovo Singapore. And we have Zheng Chao Jia, the COO of FairPrice Group in Singapore. All right, so let's start with an introductory survey or question. I would ask you to introduce yourself, your background, and your experience with automation. And for you personally, and from your experience, what has made the biggest impact in your organization in terms of automation, of autonomy in the logistics space? Koen, please.
Good.
No, I think it's on.
It's on? Okay. Yes. So, Koen Kadden, I'm CEO of Kato & Nazi Singapore. Kato & Nazi is a 175-year-old company, basically with a focus on handling large volumes of commodities, from plastics to coffee to other type of products. We own considerable assets around the world in about 35 countries, and we work a lot with the multinationals to handle their products. So we come from a very traditional background, but we see over the last year we pride ourselves to always be a bit ahead of the innovation cycle, and we have done the same also in Singapore. We run a fleet of automated forklifts, driverless forklifts. As we speak, we are running a first driverless truck within an industrial site in Singapore, and that's basically on the backbone of our operations. So we work with our multinational customers. We think as a service provider, we can be more agile than they are. And so we experiment or we test with what Daniel Tan was earlier saying. We use technologies that are available in the market, and we see how we implement those in our operations.
And I remember you mentioned that one of your biggest performance boosts or the biggest difference was data automation.
Yeah, I mean, we tend to, of what we have learned is that technologies are there, but before you go into adapting these technologies, there are many steps that I do feel that many companies go too fast. You first need to have your infrastructure, your backbone. You need to have your IT backbone. You need to have teams that can handle that. Secondly, you need to have, and that's probably the most important, the culture. So innovating, automating is, in my view, a cultural change, and something that is very often overlooked. And I discussed it with you, Jens, to say that I see companies coming in and say, oh great, we're going to apply AI, we're going to terminate 50% of our operators, we're going to terminate our forklift drivers. And you throw away your biggest value, your human factor in your company. So it's a conversation that needs to start from the ground up. You first need to educate your people. You need to engage every people from blue collar workers. And only then, when you have a good, clearly defined project, you can go to a next step.
All right. I think that was covering already question 2 and 3. Okay, let's first continue with Nigel. Nigel, from your experience, quick introduction, please.
Yeah, my name is Nigel. I'm the country general manager for Lenovo Singapore. Probably everybody will know us as the provider for notebooks and PCs under the ThinkPad brand. We are actually the world biggest in terms of market share. We own about 24. In Singapore, 1 in 3 of your notebooks is actually going to be a Lenovo notebook, right? And you can probably go to Starbucks, McDonald's, you sit there, probably it's either my competitor brand will start A or it's going to be L, Lenovo. And you look at the enormous amount of supply chain that we have to manage. We have about 35 factories or plants across the globe. We are firing up the latest one in next year in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. And most of the plants are actually automated. The most cutting edge plant that we have is in Tianjin, just outside of Beijing. It's net zero. It's really a net zero factory that has dark warehouses and actually automated assembly line. So what you see, the CNC factory, everything is automated, from the time the parts are picked to assemble, to the time where it's packaged. The only thing that is non-automated is a truck driver that sends the container to the airport or to the port. That's it. Everything is all automated. So bearing in mind that in China they have about 1.4 billion people. Abundance of human resource probably is cheaper than any one of us sitting here, but we're still going through the evolution of in automation. Why is that so? It's simple. Because the amount of manufacturing that's done in our plant or even China as a whole is enormous. There's no possibility, human impossible, to HFX not to use technology to transform or HFX to supply. In Lenovo, we are the HFX in the Gartner data. We are the 8th biggest in terms of supply chain for the globally. In Asia Pacific, we are ranked number 2. So imagine the number of supply chain that comes in every single day. The parts, in a notebook, there's close to 200,000 parts that you are able to put in place for you to use. So without, I think it's inevitable that we have to automate, and really make sure that it's less human touch, so that we have consistency in quality in terms of manufacturing and so on and so forth.
And you mentioned you have built dark warehouses with Lenovo in China.
That's right.
And you're bringing this concept now to overseas.
Yes.
Into Singapore.
That's right. So what we've done in 3 years ago, since we are a use case ourselves, so why don't we just sell our use case to the customers? We are eating our own dog food. So in Lenovo, we have a tagline, it's called Lenovo powers Lenovo, or Lenovo on Lenovo. We are using Lenovo technology to HFX, to productize our own products, but it's also to ensure that customers enjoy. How many companies in the world that say that, hey, I'm really a use case. I'm using my own product, right? So, we're here to profess that we are here to stay. We are here to sell a product or the solutions that we are using ourselves. So it will never go wrong. And again, we are the world's biggest suppliers, and basically, I think we have to make sure that the quality is up there, right? The solution is really up to mark for the customers.
All right. Thanks, Nigel. Gia, from your experience, please, quick introduction and what you are doing for FairPrice in terms of automation.
Great. Thanks, Jen. I'm from FairPrice Group, so hopefully most of the people here know FairPrice Group. In case you don't, we are the largest supermarket chain in Singapore. We run about 1.2 million square feet of warehouse space in Singapore to serve or to deliver and distribute our ambient and fresh and frozen products to our stores, as well as about 50% of our online orders are served from our warehouses as well. So for FairPrice Group, we've actually invested in automation for the last 15 to 20 years. It started with the traditional types of automation like ASRS and sorters, caddy picks, auto store. Now we are in the midst of actually transforming and remodeling one of our warehouses to use what I call the next generation of technologies with AMRs, four-way pallet shuttles, as well as robotic arms and visual analytics. We are also trying to integrate with our latest autonomous vehicles. We are the first organization in Singapore to get approval by LTA to operate autonomous vehicles on public roads. So we are trying to integrate our warehouse automation with the autonomous vehicles on the public roads to enable distribution to the rest of our DCs as well as to our stores. So the way we approach automation previously had been mostly on cost savings, especially on rental, because property prices in Singapore are just extremely high. So high density storage is very important to us, but and also labor savings, right? But now we are moving towards the next generation, and what we're actually looking out for are actually technologies that help us serve our customers better. How do we deliver our online orders faster, for example? How do we sort and organize our roll cages and our pallets to the stores in a more efficient way for our stores to actually replenish their shelves? So that's the type of technology we are investing in now. So we are looking not only for cost savings, but also better customer experience.
All right. Thanks, Gia. So that's a lot of, that's a vast level of experience here from all of you. So maybe you can help us to understand a bit in terms of challenges. What do companies need to look for? What are the pitfalls that they must avoid or should avoid? Eventually, everybody needs to make mistakes. But there are some lessons learned from your side. Maybe you can share that with us. Please.
So I think, as I said earlier, many people focus on the technology, but I think the biggest factor is, I would say, your human factor or your human resources in a couple of categories. The first one is your own people need to know what a company is going to do. There's a lot of digitization that we did in the past, and when we looked for these projects, we looked for projects where the employers, where the blue collar, where the forklift drivers benefit. And that gave them basically the edge to do that. The second group of people you need to engage with is also your customers. In our case, we mainly work for the top 10 petrochemical companies. They are not ready today to put things on a cloud or to automate things. In a lot of the automation, you increase your risk in terms of cybersecurity, and if you do so, if we depend on systems and IT, you need to make sure our operation is 24/7. 1 hour downtime is a massive problem. So there are many elements there. And the other element that I want to mention is a very positive one. By doing that, you also attract a new breed of employees in your company. The young people that see innovation, that see automation, they're attracted to that. So
Okay, so that's the human factor, basically.
The human factor.
Very important. But we also have, obviously, when we talk about automation, a cost factor. Nigel, you had something to say about the cost factor, which comes along with automation.
Yeah, I mean, there's no free lunch on the table, right? I mean, at the end of the day, you have to pay something to get something back. So when you go automation, it's not about just investing for now or even for the next 5 years. It's really a long-term thing. You're looking at 10 years, 20 years down the road, and that's the cost of investment. And basically, to turn from a manual warehouse where you're still using human resources, as you mentioned, I mean, the comfort of human resources is still going to be there. I mean, the impetus is that, wow, if somebody is now driving my forklift or using my pallet drivers to pick up my pallets, I'm not going to be comfortable. But I guess pretty much the paradigm has to shift. And definitely the human resource part, the inevitable will be reduced. That's for sure. But however, with that said, there'll be jobs that will reskill and upskill. Instead, I think just now Daniel has mentioned, instead of driving a forklift manually, now it's going to be in a cockpit. It's similar as a drone. You're going to be in the central location that's going to control all this equipment. So the investment is, yes, it's going to be it's going to be a cost. But I think fortunately Singapore, we have all the government grants and subsidies. You look at it, there's one too many that sometimes you don't know where to plug in the hole. Enterprise Singapore is one, NTUC, and so on and so forth, right? So I think those are the things that I think as part of our National Day rally, I'm very sure that one of the grants or subsidy that to help Singapore company is in the automation and robotics. So that will defray a lot of costs. For sure the return can be much faster. Good use case is recently we did it for a company in Singapore. Productivity has increased by almost more than 40%. The real estate, as you mentioned, is so expensive. I mean, today is you're paying the ground, right? You don't pay for the air, so you better capitalize as much as possible.
So that's the initial investment. You need to take care of this, of course,
yes.
Hopefully with grant support.
Yes,
But
that's
then,
right.
Gia, you mentioned earlier that what you're looking for or what you think is important or a challenge as well, continuously improve, optimize, and find the right fit for the solution that you have. Maybe you can explain that a little bit.
Exactly. I think what we've learned from our investments previously is it always makes sense in year 1. But when you get to year 10, you realize all your assumptions are different. And the previous generation of automation we have invested in are usually built to suit big automation that comes with a warehouse with a whole bunch of assumptions about how your business will grow in the future. But when your business changes, the previous set of automation we have was very rigid. You almost have to tear down the whole building and rebuild again. So where we have now discovered is we prefer to have automation that is more modular, ideally mobile. So if I decide to relay out my warehouse, we can. But then that presents another set of challenges, which is then integration. Right? We are now more flexible to deal with e-commerce business that keeps changing, but we are now having to integrate different types of modules together ourselves. So I think it presents different challenges, but given how fast our industry is changing, we are moving away from the fully integrated solutions to more modular, more flexible piece solutions that are top of their field, and we attempt to integrate ourselves.
Okay, so that almost leads immediately to what can companies do or what should they do to enable, to prepare for automation. Yeah, and I think you mentioned that you need to be clear on the problem statement first. Yeah, maybe you can continue with.
Yeah, sure. As I've mentioned before previously, we were very focused on cost optimization, bringing down cost per pick, cost per case. I think the automation today will just do that. There's so much innovation there. But being really clear about what is the real business or customer objective you want to achieve will then allow us to choose the right technology. Because some technologies are too advanced, right? An autonomous vehicle that needs satellite signal is very good, but probably we don't need that because I only need fixed routing. So choosing the right level of technology, a lot of it comes back to the right business question. For us, we're very focused on speed, so we want to get our products to our customers as soon as possible, and so the warehouse technology has to be that simple. And like what I mentioned earlier, a lot of the key enabler we're looking for right now are actually the integration algorithms that can get your AMRs to work with your four-way pallet shuttle, to work with your robotic arms, to optimize the sequence and the speed and the utilization of each of those technology assets, so we can get the products out to our customers as soon as possible at the lowest cost possible.
Okay. So being clear about what you need to achieve, what are your business goals before you start to automate, that should be a natural first step. Nigel, from your perspective, what can companies do to prepare the road to automation?
I think she almost answered all the the points, right? I think, as you said, these days automation is about not going in or out. It can be modular. I think what's important, and also with the WES, WMS, these days is all about open source. It's no longer you're really nailed down to a single source company that by cradle to dev you have to be with this company. Today with open source, we can give you the script, you can actually go and modify and so on and so forth, as long as you have the expertise. So you can tear it down. I think we were helping NTUC tear down the old warehouse, right? And become scrap. Actually, the scrap was more valuable than the build up. So yeah, I think the companies need to know what's the outcome. What do you really want to get out of it? And with the dynamic change of market that's these days, as not only just dealing with a brick and mortar, which NTUC has all the different supermarkets, across the island, but they also have to deal with the e-commerce, which is another new piece of business that's only came in like probably a decade ago. And that, can you plan that into the current automation that you have, right? So with that said, I think there's a lot of changes to be done. So the outcome is something that you need to think ahead, 5 years, 10 years, what's after e-commerce, and so on and so forth. How are you then to get all your supply chain to work together with you? So the outcome is always important. I think the cost is secondary. I mean, as I've mentioned, the cost can be taken care by itself. As fact, the one that we implemented recently, it used to be the returns on investment, you're talking between 8 to 10 years. Now the trajectory of the current project that we've done, they are looking at 3 years. So you look at the quality and the output of it that is able to pay for cost in 3 years, why not? And you do have to deal with the human resource issue, right? The guy coming and calling MC, there's no such thing called MC in automation, right?
Right.
And it's run 24/7.
Okay. Thanks, Nigel. So, and Koen, you mentioned that companies should consider taking their time, not necessarily taking their time because there is enough time, but they need to prepare properly. They need to get their workflows and processes sorted out to enable automation that will come as a following step. Can you explain a little bit on this?
Yeah, I think the key is to find that sweet spot. Yeah? I mean, for many companies, being an early adapter has been very costly. If you look at automated warehouses 10 years ago, most of them have been torn down. They have been demolished from the bottom up. And a lot of companies faced problems there. So if you are an early mover, you can go wrong. If you're a late mover, you definitely go wrong. So it's how do you find that sweet spot? And also from an HR point of view, if you are late, you will not have the right people joining your organization. And I think the challenge is there. We see technology going faster and faster, almost exponential. Yeah, I mean, as was mentioned earlier, there are 250 companies here showcasing their technology, their software, and for an owner, for logistic company, we have to find the right one. The one that is robust, the one that will still be around 10 years from now, and the one that really works. Yeah, I mean, that is a very big challenge. So it's all about finding that sweet spot, not to be too late, not to be too early. And I think in terms of technology today, we are really in the era or in the year of the sweet spots where you say, now we can adapt. But then you have to find the right one, and you have to build the teams around that technology as well.
But would you say companies still have time to wait for automation? 5 years, 10 years, or should they get their feet wet?
Logistics company never have time. I think you have to see that if you look at the play fields of companies, they are probably not here, but 80% of logistic companies are mom and pop shops, are 5 people, 10 people. The dad runs the warehouse and the trucks, the mom does the accounting, and the son is learning to work with his laptop, right? That's putting it a bit extreme, but that's still 80% of the product flows. These groups will not keep up with technology and everything, because technology is expensive. Whether you're a company with a presence in one country or 40, that means that your technology will be 40 times cheaper if you are in many countries. So it's a matter of scale, and it's a matter of finding that sweet spot. And I think it's a very big challenge for small, medium enterprises.
All right, thank you. So we are running short on time, so we come to the last question for this session, and then we move to the Q&A. From your perspective and from your visibility, what you see on the horizon, maybe Nigel can start. What future technologies do you foresee are relevant for your business, for Lenovo and your dark warehouses?
I hope I have the crystal ball to tell you everything 5-10 years down the road, and we stock price to buy. Right?
Just an educated guess.
Well, I think the automation is here to stay. It's not going to go away, right? But I think the convergence of automation, technology, and AI, I think is going to get closer and closer, right? And the CEO of a company, and basically this is a real life. My CEO every day can see what's happening on the in a single dashboard on his phone. Why are the sales coming? What's the production going up, and so on and so forth. And they can work out the cost down to the profit and loss. You don't have to wait for a quarter for us to do the analysis. He knows on the daily basis what's happening. So what's important, I think, down the road is, and I think as I mentioned, a lot of companies, CEO do not know what's happening on the ground every single day. You know, what is the throughput? Well, how much? Who are my customers? How much revenue I'm getting? You know, probably they have to call all the heads of department on a weekly basis or monthly basis and come in and say, show me what's happening. I think in the future everything is in your fingertips. You run a warehouse, at a touch of the button, you get the information. So the convergence is going to be deeper and deeper, especially with AI. Is getting more advanced. Now it's not about AI, agentic. We're all talking now. In the next leap is quantum. You know, and quantum is going to make things much faster. So that will be the future that I see.
All right. Gia, you mentioned that the future may not be dark necessarily in terms of dark warehouses.
Yeah.
Where do you see the road for fair price from your perspective?
I think where we don't know what new technologies will come out, but where we are very interested to push for is a couple of areas. One is visual analytics, because for us, we probably handle 15,000 SKUs a day, all the cartons, all the products at different shapes and sizes. Visual analytics today is still not mature enough to help us do palletization or mixed palletization. So that will be one area that we're very interested to see development in. The other area would be humanoid robotics. Not the whole human. We only need the arms and the fingers because the products we deal with are delicate pieces. So we will be pushing for and very interested in those type of technologies. And with the advancement of those type of technologies, then we believe ultimately full autonomy is possible, right? Once you have the vision and the fingers.
All right, so Koen, from your perspective, what's going down the road? What will the future bring? Where do you look for the next steps to complete the automation?
Well, I think obviously, as everyone say, the future is today. We see it here in the exhibition space. But I do think it's just very important to start with small projects that make money, and then you can scale up, and that you can bring that into an organization where your management trainees, your people, your forklift driver, your office staff, your accounting staff can see that change. And there's a lot, we didn't talk about that, but probably for every company there's a massive job to be done in data automation, which is a first step, but need to build a backbone, need to have your HR, need to have your whole team on board, build a culture, and use the technology that's already out there. So there are a lot of low-hanging fruits where you can make money in the short term that will help that culture to grow.
All right. So then let's move over to the questions. We have quite a few here. Here's a question. I would summarize this question as: is it realistic that the process that's supposed to be automated is truly 100% automated? Now that's probably for every one of you. Can automation cover 100%, or do you still need humans in the loop?
So I would say it takes time. Why? If your manual operations, your existing operations are not top-notch, you are automating something that is your current operation. So in order to automate, you first have to have your existing operation very well organized and running smoothly, because you cannot automate something, you can, but if you automate something that doesn't work, the automation will not work. And that's where I see there are many companies that think, oh, I bring in automation, I solve my problems, wrong product shipped and everything that comes with that. If you do not manage to get that done in your current operation, you will not be able to solve it in your automated solutions.
Maybe Nigel, you have something to say in this respect.
I think the answer is yes and no. You can automate a lot of things. You have to rejig some of your processes, but certain things you cannot automate, right? The engineers that maintain the automation cannot be automated. You still need that guy on the floor to really maintain it and to repair it if anything goes down. So yes, you can do a lot, but I'll probably say that 80-90%, of the processes can be automated. From the time the supply comes in all the way deliver customers, those can be automated. But the machines that's running the automation, that you need the humans. So there are jobs still there, right, to really maintain those equipments.
So basically, there's a shift in expertise and what's required to keep the machine running.
Maybe on that question, I'll just add a perspective. I think it's important to set a vision for 100% automation or digitalization. But you will start small, like what Koen had shared earlier. So I just give an example. I told my warehouse guys, I want you to be 100% paperless. Paperless, right? My guys always come back to me, no, you know, some of suppliers cannot handle this, so can we do 50%? No, 100%, because that forces them to look for a simple solution. And then you start piloting. Eventually, we will get to 100%. So I would say set that vision, but start small and build up to 100%. Otherwise, you will always hold back on the technology that you are investing or you are looking into.
So here's one question that asks specifically, what is the biggest impediment to dark warehouses, especially in countries with high labor costs such as Singapore? Maybe Nigel, you have the biggest experience with dark warehouses.
Isn't that a good problem? I guess MOM is not going to give free passes, right? So, I mean, with 6 million population and probably 2/3 are Singaporeans and PRs, and another 1/3 is foreign workers, and we still, I mean, you slice it and dice, about 1/3 there's still a lot of jobs that's really mundane jobs. You know, that can be replaced. I'm not saying that we have to remove all of them, but I think we want to really create an environment where the Singapore skill set can be, you know, put to rest, or really increase the skill sets of Singaporeans and the PRs. You know, and not to be too dependent on immigrant workers. You know, now automation is the way that HFAC, as I mentioned just now, you know, with automation, you don't get people to call in sick, right? And some, I know NTUC, sometimes when somebody calls in sick, then I really pity the guy that's scheduling the work. You know, where do I find a replacement? Or somebody has to do 2-3 jobs at that shift. So I think those are things that we can really help, you know, in terms of automation, where human resource, you know, on the floor can be reduced. But with that said, that human resource can be doing other things. He can be doing the programming of the automation, or he can be doing any other things, right? Or as Daniel has mentioned, he can be the controller to drive the forklift or the drone. You know, there is a one-to-many rather than today is really one-to-one. So yeah, I think this is something where I think the government is promoting, you know, that we really have to go automation and robotics. And HFAC, if you look at it, HFAC is to bring us to the next level of the business, you know, and basically we need to produce really quality, consistent products, and that's the value of Singapore. So yeah, I think automation will really help in Singapore as an economy as a whole to compete against the rest of the world.
Okay, here's one question to Koen specifically. You mentioned earlier that putting data on the cloud is associated with risks. And how did you manage this?
Well, we only partially manage it. I think to give you an idea, if we plug a number to it, we are getting attacked. Our IT systems are getting attacked on average about 12,000 times per day. Big number. Because this very interesting for hackers and have you what. So we have to win 12,000 times per day. We cannot lose once per day. Yeah? It's basically a race where we stay ahead and hope to stay ahead. It's a race that does not end. Yeah, it changes our whole setup. It is a continuous thing, and we have hundreds of customers who do not want to go to the next step. So they work with systems that are much more vulnerable. So it's all the technical terms about data segregation, different systems. But again, it's also by having the right humans. And if you have no humans, you can have not that part of the mistake. So I think it's a race where we all try to stay ahead of the game. It's an ugly game, but so far, in touch wood, we are still ahead of the game.
So here's a question that garners a lot of interest for family business in Singapore when it comes to automation. What is the key advice for them to ensure that they do the digitalization in the right way and not just going along with the trend?
I think for small companies, there's only one clear message, that is buy solid solutions that are available on the shelf. Yeah? Try to build software or use software that is available off the shelf. Even, I mean, also we as a larger organization, the leap change that we took a few years ago is such, we have to get away from customization, because everything you customize means it's more vulnerable. If you take big solutions and softwares that are used by companies around the world, they are usually up to date and you have less risk. As small, medium enterprise, you can or should, in my view, not develop that from scratch, because first of all, you're vulnerable, secondly, it's going to be costly, and thirdly, you'll never be able to keep up.
All right. One question for Gia. In your view, what are the biggest barriers or gaps still preventing full digital adoption in warehousing?
What's the biggest impediment or barrier to
The biggest barriers or gaps, yes.
Okay. Silo mentality. I don't know about your warehouses. When I first started my warehouse, receiving department doesn't talk to the assembly department, doesn't talk to the dispatch department. So if we want to go for automation, get people to talk together first. And actually now at a broader scale, we are also making sure that warehouses talk to our upstream buyers and our downstream stores. So actually my view is all the technologies are out there, but most people don't start because they don't know how to talk to the upstream guys and the downstream guys in order to make that return justifiable. So I think that's a muscle that every organization needs to build. First, overcome the organization silos, and then you will see that automation will actually deliver a lot of benefits.
Okay, I think this could be the last question here, but it seems to be an interesting one. How do you go about sourcing the best solution or the best innovation worldwide for your company? Is it a distributed responsibility across your company, or do you have a specific team for it?
What we do in our case is obviously there are a lot of solutions that need to be global. That's global purchase, but when we talk about innovation projects, we try to go in depth in a specific location, and if it's successful, we will multiply the other locations. And I think Singapore, in that regard, and maybe I'm biased, but is probably the best location to start these technologies, because you deal with an environment where people want to move forward, and then you can multiply to other parts of the world.
Mm-hmm. But do you assemble a specific team for it? Maybe Gia?
Yes, we have two teams. One is a planning team that works a lot with the technology providers out here. They are scanning but for technology solutions, but they are also scanning internally for problems. What are the pain points to solve, and they try to match. But before we select any solution, we will get our operations guys to go see it. And our technology providers will hate me for saying this, but we force all our providers to do a pilot with us first. Our operations guys must test it and must buy in before we actually purchase something.
All right, thank you very much. We are right on time. So I hope everybody got a little bit out of this session. We all agree that automation is already here. It is here to stay. It will grow. And the future may be dark in our dark warehouses, but not necessarily as the end goal. It's just what happens at the end of the way. Thank you very much.